does this work? In a huge trial like this, does the defense attorney tell their client how they're going to handle the closing arguments before they do it? Because our boy Marky Mark is just... I don't understand what got into him today. Hello, my fam. It is Perez, the queen of all media, the original influencer, and your #1 source for everything Diddy drama. I've already made more videos than I would like to count today, but they're all good. They're all equally shocking, crazy, must watch. So check those out to be fully caught up. Today is the last day of the trial. It's closing arguments, and framing is everything. The intimate relationships that Diddy had with his accusers indicate he was not involved in sex trafficking, his lawyer argued today. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo pointed to Cassie Ventura's answer when she was asked what kind of pain Combs put her through. Quote, I think bigger, more than anything, it was his own personal shame in having to carry the things that were shameful to him, Ventura previously testified. Agnifilo told the jury, in a sex trafficking case, the most painful thing for her was to unburden him of his shame and carry around his shame? That was that answer. She could have answered that question any one of a million ways. The reason it's beautiful is the only person who could answer a question that way is a person who's truly in love with the other person. And all you need to know is that answer. Both Cassie and Jane were saying this was this essential, vulnerable, deep part of himself, and he trusted me to go there with him. Mark said that the other ex-girlfriend who testified, Jane, answered a similar question in the same way, talking about how she felt her nights at hotels with Diddy were something special between them. Quote, she was basically saying, listen, I'm going to a very vulnerable, special place for you, and I'm doing it because I love you. Agnifilo went on to describe how, in an exchange, Jane wanted to be treated specially. Quote, that's a lot of things, but that's not sex trafficking. The wicked Kristina Khorram was mentioned today by the defense, his former chief of staff, whom the prosecution referred to as a co-conspirator. Marky Mark, his defense attorney, said everyone should have a KK. Agnifilo noted that Diddy's alleged victims would reach out to Kristina for help and sarcastically compared her to a mobster. If John Gotti was at your door, he told the jury, would you call Sammy the Bull Gravano? Of Kristina Khorram, she's a very nice person. That's what the testimony has been. Mark referred to Kristina as the single most helpful person and not a co-conspirator. Okay, bro. Mark was joking, sarcastic, and mocking throughout his hours-long closing argument, including mocking the government for calling to the witness stand only 2 men who they said had sex with Cassie while Diddy watched. The government did not call any men who allegedly had sex with Jane to testify. And the 2 men who did have sex with Cassie during the Freakoffs both testified that they aren't dudes, and that they didn't travel across state lines to meet Cassie and Diddy. Additionally, this is a pretty good argument. Mark said there's no difference to what he did filming the encounters and making homemade corn to what professional adult film studios do. Quote, in every corn movie, I'm assuming the actors get paid to have sex. How is that not prostitution? I don't know, and you don't know either, he told the jury. And another good point. Mark told the jury that no alleged co-conspirators were indicted with Diddy, noting he was the only one indicted. If there was this enterprise, wouldn't more people have been indicted? Very fair point. Then, at the end of his closing arguments, Mark made his final push. He said to the jury, you should feel bold. You should feel the courage that you will need to call this as you see it. And I am asking you to summon the courage and to do what is needed to be done. He is not a racketeer. He is none of these things. He is innocent. He sits there innocent. Return him to his family who have been waiting for him. Mark suggested that the government targeted Diddy after Cassie's November 2023 lawsuit came out and did what they could to get him without having the evidence. Mark spoke for 4 hours and 3 minutes. The prosecutor, Kristina Slavic, yesterday spoke for almost 4 hours and 49 minutes. Following an afternoon break, Judge Subramanian reminded jurors they're not to be concerned about who the prosecution has not charged in this case. The judge said arguing that Diddy is the target of selective prosecution was not appropriate. During her rebuttal, prosecutor Maureen Comey, though, said the defense offered excuse after excuse for inexcusable criminal behavior. Fact. Comey mocked the defense's idea that Diddy wouldn't firebomb Kid Cudi's car because he wanted to physically fight him. With a sarcastic tone of her own, the prosecutor said, sure, with his girlfriend fighting her. But when dealing with men like rap rival Suge Knight, he used a gun. When he's beating up a woman half his size, he doesn't need a gun. When he's going after a man, he brings a weapon. Boom. Additionally, Comey said that Diddy knew he was breaking the law by paying for escorts. Savagely, she told the jury that he wasn't flying the escorts out for scintillating conversation. Quote, the money is for sex, the sexual performance, not for time. That's prostitute. And earlier, the defense tried to paint the Freakoffs as romantic, a wonderful evening. No. The prosecutor reminded the jury, quote, what we're talking about is being in a dark hotel room, awake for days, covered in oil, often with a UTI, in heels, with your pelvic area sore, having sex for hours, including with strangers. The defense wanted you to believe Cassie and Jane wanted that. That's ridiculous on its face. Comey also argued that these sex tapes that the defense depicted as date nights with beautiful rooms and nice music were not visual representations of beautiful evenings, but repetitive sessions for one man's enjoyment. It's the same performance, Comey said. Comey told the jury that in order to convict Diddy on sex trafficking, they only needed to find there was one so-called freak-off when he knew he was using force, fraud, or coercion to gain Cassie or Jane's compliance in the event. As I told you that earlier in one of my many videos today. After the defense argued that career opportunities Diddy offered Cassie and the rent he paid for Jane were evidence of generosity, not leverage, the prosecutor insisted it was the opposite. Quote, the money, the career, the house were all tools the defendant used to control Cassie and Jane. It trapped them. Very true, I think. Comey also responded to the defense's suggestion that Diddy couldn't have had an enterprise because its purpose wasn't illegal activity. However, the prosecutor said to the jury, an enterprise could have lawful and unlawful purposes. Prosecutors aren't claiming that Diddy's companies themselves were illegal, but that they used some of the money to further the enterprise. That is a fact. We saw receipts. We saw his travel folks arranging transportation for the escorts and for Cassie and Jane. I'm really starting to think today maybe the prosecution has a good chance of getting a lot of convictions. Comey also said that Diddy's former chief of staff, Kristina Khorram, and his bodyguard, D-Rock, were friendly with Cassie because it helped them get her back to Diddy and do what he wanted. Quote, they played both sides. With regards to Capricorn Clark, his former assistant, who was kidnapped, the prosecutor said it was laughable to believe defense assertions that she was there willingly to help Diddy with a break-in at Kid Cudi's house. Combs wanted to confront the fellow rapper with a gun, according to the prosecution. Additionally, the prosecutor said that a person doesn't need to call themselves a prostitute in order to receive payment for sex. They just have to receive payment for sex. And that's what happened. Additionally, and very smartly, regarding whether Diddy was aware his actions were criminal, Comey pointed to his concerns about escorts potentially being undercover cops. He would not have brought that up if he thought what he was doing was just fine. Additionally, Comey doubled down on Diddy blowing up Kid Cudi's car. She told the jury, he said he was going to blow up the car. Lo and behold, it blew up. Comey reiterated that Diddy ran a criminal enterprise fueled by his employees' help. She said that Diddy is a man who couldn't get his own water bottle or plug in his own phone. Of course, he wouldn't be able to do this alone, she said. Snap. Oh, she is good. He's the general, not a foot soldier. The prosecutor also told the jury that Diddy paying for the hotel security camera footage of him attacking Cassie was bribery. Comey addressed a non-disclosure agreement that he had one of the security guards sign. He gave that security guard $100,000 in exchange for the hotel camera footage. The NDAs, Comey said, show that Diddy was worried about law enforcement since it mentioned Garcia had to tell Diddy if he received a court order. Comey also pointed to Garcia's testimony that Diddy told him not to make any big purchases with the money. The only reason Diddy would say that is if he was worried the police may try to track down the video, Comey said. The prosecutor also brought up the fact that Diddy would record many of his phone conversations, as would Kristina Khorram. She said, plaintiff's lawyers don't get to tap phones. Who taps phones? The feds. Who taps phones? Law enforcement. What he's doing on those calls is tampering with a witness. The prosecutor reminded the jury that 2 former girlfriends and a former assistant said they were sexually assaulted by Diddy, despite the defense's assertions that the sex was consensual. All 3 women made it clear they did not want to submit to acts pushed on them by Diddy. Comey said, quote, "These 3 women had no reason to lie." As to Kristina Khorram, his former chief of staff, Comey told the jury that she lived in Diddy's home, read his texts, sent messages on his phone on his behalf, and knew every detail of his life. She orchestrated the bribe payment to Eddie Garcia, the security guard, for the hotel footage. That makes Khorram a co-conspirator, and that's all jurors need to find Diddy guilty of racketeering conspiracy, the prosecutor said. I am feeling so optimistic. The prosecutor also slammed the suggestion that Diddy's accusers had financial motivation to testify. None of them got paid to testify, she told the jury. And quite effectively, she shot back at their argument that yes, Diddy is guilty of domestic violence, but he's not guilty of all these other things. Comey argued that Ventura was subjected to violence by Diddy when she was just 21 years old, and he had control over everything from her career to her home and her car. Comey said that as the violence and fear became routine, Cassie was worn down. So when the defendant told Cassie to set up a freak-off, what choice did she have? Being a domestic abuser is not a defense to sex trafficking. If part of the abuse is making your partner participate in a commercial sex act, you're guilty of sex trafficking. There's no separating the violence from the sex. But make no mistake, the violence that happened away from hotel rooms and away from freak-offs were about keeping Cassie obedient, controlling her. She concluded her rebuttal imploring jurors to find Diddy guilty and lauding his victims for coming forward with overwhelming evidence. The defendant never thought the women he abused would have the courage to speak out loud what he had done with them. For 20 years, the defendant got away with his crimes. That ends in this courtroom. The defendant is not God. He is a person, and in this courtroom, he stands equal before the law. Overwhelming evidence proves that. It is time to find him guilty, and it is time to hold him accountable. Find him guilty, Comey said. I echo that. And that is a wrap on the Diddy trial. The jury gets their instructions Monday and then immediately begin deliberating. Also, if you care, Diddy's 27-year-old son, Christian King Combs, released new music with Kanye West today. A 7-track project, including a song called Diddy Free, with lyrics that include, "Ain't going to sleep till we see Diddy free." Well, I've made so many videos today, I'm not going to sleep till I see Diddy guilty. And I will see you on Monday. Fingers crossed. Until then, I am Perez, the queen of all media, the original influencer, and your #1 source for everything Diddy drama. Thank you for joining me and watching all my videos today. Until I see you again talking about this, let's now discuss everything in the comments section.